What's up YouTube, and welcome to the Anabolic Outpost. In today's edition I will be showing off my Anabolic M&M double chocolate cookies. Now, one of my biggest missions on my anabolic journey was to find the perfect cookie recipe that models regular cookies. And I have tried many different anabolic cookie recipes that don't taste anything like cookies or have any of the texture. But I believe that I have finally found the recipe that replicas cookies the most, and I decided to put that skill to use and make some M&M cookies. And yes, if you're wondering, this recipe does use real M&Ms. I've tried to find a substitute, but nothing really compares to the real stuff, and even the substitute that are slightly close, it still has basically the same macros with just no sugar anyway. But you could customize this recipe to have as little or as much M&Ms that you want on your cookies, or even none at all. It is still a great double chocolate chip cookie recipe. The first ingredient you're going to need for this recipe is protein powder, and I'm using the Chocolate Cupcake PE Science protein powder. If you're not going to use PE Science, I do highly recommend that you use a whey casein blended protein powder. Cocoa powder, your sweetener of choice, I am using sucralose, any form of powdered peanut butter, Truvia brown sugar substitute, your milk of choice, I recommend fat-free milk or almond milk, oat flour, no sugar added applesauce, salt, and finally, the M&Ms. Before you start making this recipe, you're going to want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Now, like any great cookie maker, to start it out, you're going to want to mix in your dry ingredients. And for this recipe, you're going to want to add 90 grams of protein powder. Next thing I'm adding in is going to be 56 grams of the oat flour. The cocoa powder is going in next. I am adding in 30 grams. Next thing I'm going to put in there is that pinch of salt. You just go ahead and just hit it with a quick sprinkle over the other dry ingredients. Next thing going in there is the baking soda, and I don't think I got a preview of this at the beginning of the video, so I'm sorry if I confused any of you, but you're going to be adding in 4 grams of the baking soda. Now I'm adding in the sucralose, and I'm adding in 5 grams. Depending on what sweetener you use, you're obviously just going to have to convert it over to see how much sweetener you should add. Although I am going to make a helpful chart for converting over sweeteners, so be on the lookout for that. Next, I am adding in the Truvia brown sugar replacement, and I'm adding in 60 grams. And this is what I was talking about in the intro with adding in new ingredients. This is the first time I'm using this on my channel, and one of the first recipes I've actually used this for. And I have to say, it is going to be on a lot more recipes on my channel in the future. It really does substitute pretty much perfectly like brown sugar, and I think it's a great replacement, especially in something like cookies. So be on the lookout for more recipes with the brown sugar in it. And lastly, you are also going to add 24 grams of the powdered peanut butter in the dry ingredients. And now that all the dry ingredients are in the bowl, I'm just going to go ahead and mix it real quickly with a whisk. And now that all the dry ingredients are mixed together in the bowl, it's time to hit it with the wet ingredients, with the first ingredient being 60 grams of the unsweetened applesauce. And let me tell you, I was at the bottom of the jar with this applesauce, and I figured that applesauce is pretty thick, and I would be able to get it all in there and probably have some more left over even, but I scraped the jar real hard, and I was just able to get 60 grams, and there's probably not that much more scraping I could have done to get the applesauce out of this jar, so I'm grateful I did have enough and not have to run to the store mid-recipe, which, believe it or not, has been done several times. Now that the applesauce is all in there, I am going to add the second and final wet ingredient, which is 75 grams of milk. Now that all the ingredients are together, you're going to go ahead and hit this with an electric mixer, and please do not try to mix this by hand because it is not going to go very well. Go ahead and invest yourself in an electric mixer. And let's just cue up the hard style real quick in honor of this batter being mixed. And here is what the batter looks like as the final product before I form it into cookies. And it should be pretty thick. As you saw, there's really not that many wet ingredients in there. So it should be a nice thick cookie batter that you could easily form into regular cookie shapes. Now we're going to form these cookies up. And my greatest life hack when dealing with batter spray some cooking oil on your hands and just rub it together in your hands. It really makes it so that the batter just slides off a little bit easier as you're trying to form the cookies. And don't get me wrong, it still sticks a lot, but it is a lot easier and less of a hassle than when you're not using the oil and it just sticks all over your hands. And this recipe is going to make 12 to 15 cookies, and I did end up having to grab an extra tray to add on 2 more cookies to that tray, but depending on how big you make them, you're going to get a different amount of cookies depending on the size. And now there is only one thing left to do, and that is add the M&Ms on top of the cookies. I'm just going to add about 3 to 4 M&Ms on top of each cookie. It ends up being 56 grams for all of them, which is equivalent to 4 of those fun size M&M packs if that's what you're grabbing your M&Ms from. And honestly, I did have some left and I ended up just throwing them out because I'm not going to eat M&Ms unless they are anabolic. And now it is time to slide them in the oven, and you're going to want to cook these for 10 to 12 minutes. And like most doughs that you cook in the oven, you're going to want to use the toothpick test to see whether or not it's done. If you slide a toothpick in there after 10 minutes and it comes out with batter still on it, you're going to want to cook it for a few more minutes. But if it comes out dry, then you know that the cookies are ready. And these are what they look like once they are out of the oven, and be sure to just let them cool for at least 10 to 15 minutes. And I do also recommend storing these inside of the fridge, although it is not required. And finally, this is what we got as the final product once they are done cooking and cooling, and look at those beautiful M&M cookies. And here is the moment I know you guys skipped to before even watching the video, the macros, which are 11 grams of carbs, 3 grams of fat, and 6 grams of protein per cookie, which is only 85 calories. So I usually have like 3 or 4 of these in one sitting, and it gives me some good protein in for a dessert that is incredibly delicious, something that you wouldn't even expect to be able to get protein from. And this has also inspired me to make a lot more cookie recipes in the future, so be on the lookout for those. If you really like these cookies, there are a lot more variety of them coming your way. If you did have any questions regarding any substitutions or anything about this recipe, be sure to comment them down below and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And if you did enjoy this video and this recipe, leave a like and subscribe. I know most of you have already been doing this and I really appreciate it a lot. That is all I have for you though. Thanks for watching.